has lived in Southern California her entire life.
This is my grandmother right here.
She knows her ancestors came from Mississippi, but much of her family history was unknown. That is until her niece started doing research.
Here's the 1880 census.
Adrienne Abiodun is a professional genealogist in Tampa, Florida. But even she spent 2 decades and thousands of dollars before uncovering the name Philip Branch.
So Philip Branch is my 4th great grandfather, and he was an enslaved person.
What was your reaction when Adrienne told you that your family is direct descendants of an enslaved person named Philip Branch?
I thought that was awesome. It was just a little overwhelming.
The vital lineage information could be valuable in California as it debates what is owed to descendants of the enslaved. Camila Moore is chair of the California Reparations Task Force, the first in the nation statewide effort to address systemic racism against African Americans caused by the enduring legacy of slavery. Could it be something as simple as you take a cheek swab, you submit your DNA, and they go, oh, you're a descendant of an enslaved person, here's your check?
I mean, it could be. Again, this is all still a work in progress.
The task force wants eligibility to be lineage-based versus race-based. That has sparked debate.
The paper trail is not always proven to be correct.
For people who have to prove their lineage, it can be difficult, costly, and time-consuming, especially since many slaves weren't identified by name but property codes up until the 1870 census.
People think that, oh, I'm going to sit down and do my family research this weekend and get my application for reparations ready. That's not going to happen.
Over the weekend, the task force approved recommendations for reparations that could be worth up to $1.2 million for eligible applicants. Citywide reparations efforts are also underway in Boston, St. Louis, and San Francisco. Some may not support the idea because it could cost taxpayer dollars. Denise doesn't know if she'll ever get reparations, but she supports the Golden State's effort.
I'm excited for people who, will need it and can use it, but the sad part is we're getting it at the expense of what our ancestors went through.
Dana Griffin, NBC News, Los Angeles.
So yeah, there you have it, folks. Reparations. That's what our topic is tonight. Thank you for joining us once again for another Business Talks. I'm your host, Shawan Burns, and we're talking about reparations. Only reason why I wanted to talk about this is because this is a controversial issue. Do I agree with it? Not necessarily. I think it's just one of those things that they keep on bringing up. And I'm saying they, Black people, and they're almost forcing the Democratic Party to look into reparations. And they're like, oh, we want this task force to look into reparations. Okay, we'll do it. So, and they're saying, oh, there is just one of many task force, but I could remember years ago, they've been talking about reparations. So I don't know where this is coming from. I don't know why it's new to the media, but it's not a new thing. They've been talking about it for years and nothing ever came of it. So I want to talk about what Gavin Newsom said and the CNN report. It's kind of hilarious because Gavin Newsom, he just, I think Black people, they want this reparation so bad. And it's like, do you even know your lineage? Can you really trace back to see if you were a descendant of slaves? And then I think it's going to cause another big uproar between the people that's ADOS. Oh, I'm ADOS, and to just, other Black Americans that's actually been here before slavery. So I think it's just a waste of time, really. I think when you talk about slavery or even reparations, you got to think about, there were some Black slave owners. So are you going to trace them back and get reparations from their family? And who will pay for it? So you're talking about is the federal government will pay for it, but essentially if it's the federal government paying for it, essentially it's the people paying for it, right? So they're going to tax you to get reparations, and they're going to give it to you, but it's tax. It's off of your dime. So you're really paying back your reparations. To me, it doesn't really make any sense. So put in the chat, do you agree with reparations, or is it like one of those far-fetched things that probably would never happen? If they would have gave reparations like right when they abolished slavery, that 40 acres and a mule, I think that would have been the most ideal time. But now you got so many Black folks that's coming over here that's not even from the descendants of slaves. What do you do with that? So I think it's going to be a big mess, and I think it's going to cost I don't think they have enough money to carry it. Let me just highlight this chat. Womb Braider says, I agree. Reparations really places Blacks into certain boxes, making a clear divisions between white and Black poverty. Yeah. I mean, you really gotta define who's gonna get these reparations. Anyway, let's go to this Gavin Newsom article, because I thought it was pretty funny because whoever wrote the article, I mean, like, what are you talking about? So, and it seemed like they've been doing a lot of research, but like I said, I think they're just pulling Black people down this rabbit hole that's not gonna happen for them. I just don't think it's a viable thing for them to do. Let me change the way I'm seeing it. Okay, so you guys could see it on my screen. This is a CNN article. Just take it off, make it separate. And okay. So this is Gavin Newsom right here. This article is called California Governor Responds to Recommended Reparations Payments for Black Residents. And the video I played before, they're saying California is the leader. They're really looking into it. I don't know if you guys remember Ice Cube coming out with the reparations package, and he tried to talk to, I think, Joe Biden. Joe Biden didn't want to talk to him, so he ended up talking to Donald Trump, and Donald Trump actually talked to him, but all the Black people got mad at him because he talked to Donald Trump. And then, the girls that's on the Fox, I call them bitter old ladies. It was like Claudia Johnson, Selena, whatever her name is, and I forget what the other two names were, but anyway, they're still on there. They have a show on the Fox. It's like a low grade of The View. It's like a discounted View. Oh, Vivica Fox, that's who it is. Vivica Fox, and I forget what the other lady's name is. But anyway, they gave Ice Cube some crap about reparations. And he was like, I just came up with a package because nobody else was coming up. I asked other people to help me or input into this, and nobody else helped me. So they gave him a lot of crap because he didn't put a definitive black woman. He just said black people, and they gave him a lot of crap about that. And then they gave him crap about talking to Donald Trump. It's like, what do you guys expect? So, like I said, I think it's a waste of time to me. Reason why I think it's a waste of time is because we got so many other problems that we're dealing with within the Black community. I think we have a big cultural problem, number one. And then we're talking about monetizing Blacks for something that happened 200 to 300 years ago, or we could say 400 years ago, 1865. And you want to monetize people for the injustice that happened. Okay, so we're talking about slavery. And then in California, they were looking at, okay, so what about when they were redlining? You had, because I think someone put in a chat that let's talk about, well, slavery didn't even existed in California, which is true. So we're talking about reparations. Are we talking about reparations because the other injustices that happened during the period that it happened? Because that's nothing to do with slavery. It has, just like race stuff or racist stuff. But what I was getting at is like, we have so much other stuff that we need to worry about within the Black community. And Dr. Phil, I'm going to play a clip from Dr. Phil and Dr. Rashid Ritchie combating what Dr. Phil said. Dr. Phil basically said, like, you give a person money, and if they don't know how to manage the money, they'll be broke in a few months or broke in a year or two. That's like when a person hit the lottery and they never managed money before, they'll be broke. So he didn't further explain, but to me, I take it, if you give someone whatever it is, and they never had that particular thing before, if you don't teach them how to manage that thing, then that thing will be squandered. And I feel like even in the Black community, because a lot of people in the Black community are like functional literate. And that means that they could probably fill out an application, but they can't really read, and that's prevalent in the inner city. So, and it's not only Black people that suffer from this tragedy. It's also whoever's living in the inner city, so you have people that's functional. I say functional literate, but functional illiterate. So how can you say, oh, they're going to manage money? If they never had no money, why would you give them any money to squander it? What would that lead to? It would lead for people spending their money on stupid stuff, So to me, I think it's really ridiculous. I think we need to be focusing on our culture and bringing up our family, or building back our families in our community. Maybe that's a form of reparations. I don't think money will solve our problems. I really don't think that. I don't think money will solve it. So let's get into this article. If I didn't, oh no, I didn't do that. So it says California governor responded Wednesday to the reparation payments for Black state residents that were recommended by the task force looking at how to mitigate injustices and discrimination stemming from slavery. Governor Gavin Newsom called the recommendation a milestone in our bipartisan effort to advance justice and promote healing. He added, "We need to wait for the task force to finish its work and submit its final report," without offering any details about whether he would support the recommendation put forth. "We are waiting for the process to be completed." Newsom, a Democrat who is white, this is what I'm talking about. "We are waiting for the process to be completed." Newsom, a Democrat who is white, said in the statement. Why would you write that? You got his picture up. Does he look black to you? No. We know this is Governor Gavin Newsom because they got it right here. Governor Gavin Newsom. He has a big white picture. Oh, this is a white man. So why would you put that in there? That kind of irritated me. Doesn't matter if he's white or black. He charged people or this committee to do an inspection or a report about reparations. It's like a task force. So he's the one who said, okay, yeah, let's create this task force, and he backed it. So why would you even mention that he's white? That's what I don't like. Even though he is a Democrat. So they mentioned that he's white. I don't know. I guess if you're listening to it and you're not seeing it, you don't know Gavin Newsom is white. I don't know. This is just irritated. I got really irritated about that. The recommendations approved Saturday outline restitutions that, if approved by state lawmakers, could cost billions of dollars to address historical disparities in healthcare, housing, and policing. Okay, dealing with the legacy of slavery is about much more than cash payment, Newsom said in a statement. A lot of people, I'm not reading, a lot of people need mental health. You know, if you were unjustly prosecuted for a crime you didn't commit it, yeah, you probably gonna be effed up in the head. A lot of hurt people weren't running around in these streets committing other crimes too. And some of these people are black folks. So I agree with that statement, but do we really need reparations as a cash payment? I mean, I'm not going to say I am not going to take it if they say, Shawan, here's reparations. I'm not saying that. But like I said, I think it's a whole bunch of other stuff we could spend our time on than this. Okay. Many of the recommendations put forth by the task force are critical actions items we've already been hard at working addressing. Break down barriers to vote. Everybody says it's a barrier to vote. And I lived in Iowa and I voted in Iowa. Iowa literally has 0.9% black people. It's a Republican state. And I always say Iowa is not for young black people. I've always said it. Unless you're not from a hood family, then you probably could get along well. But if you're from a hood family like I was, real ghetto, it's probably really not for you. But anyway, what I'm saying to you, they've always talking about the barriers to go vote. What are the barriers? Okay, you need a ID or you need a voter registration card. Why don't you have one? Why can't you get an ID? Your social security card is free. Your birth certificate probably costs you $10, maybe $15 in some state. I don't even think they need a utility bill. I think you need 3 forms of ID, but you could use your school ID. So if you was in high school, you could use your school ID. even if you were in prison, you could even use a prison ID to get ID. So that's what I'm saying. Like, oh, maybe back then, like maybe my dad, he's 78. Yeah, he probably had some problems voting back in the day, and his parents, but they're no longer living. My grandparents are no longer living, so I'm pretty sure they probably would have had some problems. But like me, I never had a problem voting. No one's ever said, Shawan, you can't vote, because I always had an ID, even if I didn't have my voter's registration card. I pull out my ID. Oh yeah, you're at this precinct. You could vote here. So I just don't understand. Maybe I'm just, so in my bubble, I don't know what they're talking about. But I've voted in many states and I never had any problems voting in these states. So anyway, and some of these states were in the South too. I lived in North Carolina for about 3 or 4 years. Never had any problem voting in North Carolina. So anyway, as we're talking about barriers to vote, bolstering resources to address hate, enacting sweeping laws, enforcement, and justice reforms to build trust and safety, strengthening economic mobility, all while investing billions to root out disparities and improve equity in housing, education, healthcare, and beyond. This is a generational thing. Generational, disparities in education and healthcare. That's generational stuff. Even housing. I could truly say, like, because if you lived in Detroit and during the 2008 downturn, the real estate burst, if you lived in an urban city, your mortgage was upside down. Now, was that because it was an urban city? Probably all urban cities' mortgages was upside down. And that really sucked. But that I don't think that had nothing to do with economic disparity. I think that just had everything to do with these lenders overlending to people that they was giving out loans 110% of the home value. So of course you're gonna be upside down in your mortgage. But that kind of stuff happened. Anyway, so in healthcare, you still have a disparity in healthcare. So, and I don't think that's going to ever change unless, you change the people's mindset. Like when I had my child, and this was my first child, I didn't have any medication or no anesthesia or anything like that. I just felt like the nurse was like, oh, you shouldn't be moving like I'm having a baby. But anyway, that was my own personal experience. You could talk to tons of other Black women about their frightening stories about delivering a baby in a hospital. And I had another surgery and it was a horrible experience in the hospital. So that has something to do with just people not identifying with your race. I mean, I think maybe that is a systematic racism thing, but I don't think it has nothing to do with reparations. I think it all has to do with just people are ignorant to the fact. You can't, if in the hospital they're saying, oh, Black people are a certain type of way, just go to a different hospital. That's what I did with my second baby. I ended up going to a different hospital. And it was a totally wonderful experience. But most of the nurses, white nurse in the bad hospital, and it was white nurses in the good hospital. So, but then I had a surgery in this same hospital where I had the baby with the good, and I had a good experience. I had a horrible experience. So, like I said, I think it all depends on where you're at. Okay. Does it have anything to do with reparations? I don't think so. But back in the day, maybe, when they're talking about the Tuskegee Airmen, they was experimenting on people back then. Okay, yeah. But did we go through that? No, we didn't go through that. They wasn't injecting us with stuff that they knew that was harmful. Maybe the food. Now the food is a different, but that's with everybody. That's black, white, anybody that's eating American food. We got a lot of stuff in our food that's harmful for us. Should we seek? Everybody should be seeking reparations from the government. Diabetes, heart diseases, all kinds of cancerous materials. So all kinds of stuff that we eat on a daily basis, but that affects everyone. And you might be saying, "Oh, Shawan, well, what about the food desert?" Well, what about it? I just did a story, and that video went viral, how people was breaking into Walmart. Walmart has vegetables. They tried to service the inner city, but people were stealing from them. So I think even the good food choices, when you make good food choices, that has all to do with your education. That has nothing to do with, if the food choices are available. All to do with your education. Because you tend to make more, you tend to make better decisions. So anyway, reading on, let me get to this chat. Let me see if you guys are putting something in the chat, because I could talk my ear off. I mean, I could talk your ear off. Interview, no specific time, said Tom Sawell, on the myths of economic inequality. I think I got that queued up. I think that's one of the things that we're going to watch today. Raphael Jordan said they would still vote for Gavin and the Democrats. Yes, they will. Yeah, they'll always vote for Gavin. Gavin's going to end up hurting their feelings, and they're going to still vote for him. They're going to still vote for him. By the way, what do you think about Michigan tearing up I-375 as justice for destroying Black Bottom? I don't know. You talking about like Mexican Village or near Marathon? I don't know. I think it was something else had to do. I remember in the late 2010, Detroit City Council was speaking out against big box stores and promised to fight them. Yeah, I mean that's what they do. I mean, because Democrats, not, and I don't even wouldn't say Democrats. I guess you want people. If you have a community, you want your local community to be built on smaller businesses, because smaller businesses tend to stay. They tend to invest in their community, and that has nothing to do with, hey, this is black or white. That's just, hey, I'm spending my money in this community. I live in this community. I want you to spend your money with my business, and in turn I'll spend money with you, or invest in that community, and you paying business taxes and all that stuff. Well, a lot of times with the big box stores, of course, that money is taken in. The only money that stays there is if the people that works there lives there, and they tend to spend money with their local businesses. But that's not true. We could talk about the cycle of the black dollar. We know the cycle of the black dollar don't even make it one time in the community. But then we need to talk about, we have the stuff that we have in our community, even if it's not a grocery store. It could be like a hair store, like weave and stuff. Well, who owns the weave store? 900 times out of 900 times, it will be a Chinese person owning the hair store. Do you think Chinese people patronize other stores within the community? Raise your hand if you know. Well, ding, ding, ding. I know they do not patronize the stores in their community. So, and I'm getting off on this tangent because when we talk about reparations, you talking about building a community or building the Black community. Like I said, we got so many other issues within our community. Money does solve a lot of problems, but our mindset, we got a cultural problem that needs to be solved. Number one, when I'm talking about hair stores, why do we tend to, a Black woman would spend their last dollar on a hair weave? We'll spend a whole bunch of money on some hair weave, eyelashes. I got somebody, it was a few people that said I was too uppity because I don't like that damn baby curl. I said that was ghetto. Well, now you could buy baby curl on the internet from the Chinese man, from Alibaba. We'll spend our last dime on that. And who does that money go to? Who's making the weaves? China. China's making the weave. Nothing that we put on is made in the US. And when I talk about hair a lot is because that's what Black women in general spend way more money than men. But Black women, we tend to spend money on our hair and our nails. And who does our hair and our nails? The wig is from the China man. Our nails is from the China man. And if we need to put it on or install it, some Chinese people could do that. And also, we will go to, some women that put our hair on or whatever. But all the stuff that we use to beautify ourselves is from the China man. Does that black dollar go cycle back into the community? No, it doesn't. So we're talking about reparations. Reparations could be like holding your dollar, investing in the black owned business. At least it will kind of cycle back. And then when I say culture problem, we value stuff that shouldn't be valued. Like we'll put people on a pedestal that shouldn't be put on a pedestal. We celebrate baby mama culture that shouldn't be on a pedestal. Oh, slay, get your coins. Oh, she did that. She got her man, but her man is not her man because he didn't marry her. He just gave her a baby, and then it's going to be another baby mama. Just, oh, you look so beautiful pregnant, but she ain't married. It's like, and I'm not harping on single mothers. I'm just saying that's what we celebrate in our culture. We celebrate having the fancy bags and Chanel bags, but our kids can't read. You know what I'm saying? Like your kids can't pass, the basic tests, to say, oh, you're reading at level, you're at grade level, or your math is at grade level. We letting the TV or YouTube raise our kids. So like I said, we have a culture problem. And if we want to do reparations, if you want to really take advantage of the reparations, Your reparations is within yourself, within your family, within your community. I have a bag. I'm going to show you this bag. And I'm not bragging like I'm like the best mom ever, but my kids knew how to read before. Like my son, my oldest son, he knew how to read when he was 3. When he learned how to talk, he knew how to read. My other son, he knew how to read when he was 3 or 4. They were doing math and all that stuff before they got to school. So when I have kids come over, and I know parents are not like me, because I spend a lot of time with my kids. I think they didn't ask to be here, so I'm going to invest all my time with them. And that's the first thing on my plate as being a wife and a mother. That's the very first thing. But I tell the kids that come over to our house, if we have a gathering, you can have, this is a big bag. You can have one of these books. Go in my office, baby, and pick one of these books out and have your mom read it to you. No kid should be wondering how to turn a page in a book. But you have kids that don't know how to turn a page in a book. You see what I'm saying? So, like I said, we got to fix our cultural problem. And one of those things, our culture problem, we value stuff that shouldn't be valued, like fancy stuff. What's valuable is what they put in black and white. That's valuable. And when we fix that, what's valuable? A family. That's valuable. Not just like, oh, I got to get my I'm a boss B. I got to get my coins. I'm chasing that bag. It's about me. I don't want no man that's going to hold me back and all that stuff. Like we got to fix that. We got to go back to the family. So when I talk about reparations, I think reparations is not going to fix our cultural problem. Matt Torrance said we need our weave. Yeah, we need our weave. So let's get back to Gavin Newsom. Let's get back to what we were talking about. So the California Task Force, let me make sure you guys can see this. Okay, the California Task Force recommendations will be presented at its next meeting, then to the state legislature by July the 1st. Among possible estimated values of recommended reparations for Black Californians are healthcare. So you got healthcare. They want $13,000 for each year of residency based on 71 life expectancy. They didn't give a start date or end date. Hey, residency since when? Okay. 71-year life expectancy. Is that logical? I would say, what's the average? They're gonna counter that. I don't believe that, because I'm Black and I'm poking holes in this already. You saying $13,000 for each year? Does it cost $13,000 to get health insurance a year? I mean, just be realistic about this. So he know this is Gavin Newsom. He didn't want to respond because he think this is a crock of BS. Life expectancy for 71 years. Maybe women live that long. I don't know about Black men. Okay. Housing discrimination, 148,000 or 3,300 for each year between 1933 and 1977. Okay. Mass incarceration over policing. They want this number 49 year period, 1971 and 2020. hey, if I never been arrested, can you say I was over police? Like, I stayed out of trouble. So I could poke a hole in that. The state Black populations includes more than 2.5 million people. But we don't know if they ADOS. You know, this ADOS tribe, they are stern, cold, hard about if you're not ADOS, they calling people out for that. And it's like they're so proud to be ADOS. You so proud to be a descendant of a slave. For what? Newsom in 2021 signed a bill to establish the task force, and 5 of its 9 members are appointed by the governor. Newsom will continue to partner with the legislature to advance systematic changes that ensure an inclusive and equitable future for all Californians, he said. The task force recommendations also have called for the state office to process reparation claims and identify and mitigate the ways that current and previous policies have damaged and destabilized Black families, to restore historical sites, to support educations, to offer free legal aid and other services. So basically, they're putting the brunt on the government. They said, hey, you displaced us or destabilized us. We're going to leave that up to the government to identify who we are. This is why I said it's a waste of time. You're leaving it up to the government to tell you who you are. You want it, but you want to leave it up to the government to tell you who you are. And that's why I don't agree with critical race theory. You gonna leave it up to the white man to tell you who you are. And when I say the white man, 75% of the teachers in the schools are white. So why are you dependent on them to tell you who you are? You teach your own kids who they are. To me, it don't make any sense. But that's like, oh, I want something from the government. But you got to give it to me and you got to work it out. It's like, I don't even know what to say to that. I don't know. Robert Jordan says, why would a lot of these kids learn how to read, do math, and understand science when most of these kids, they think they're going to play with the NBA rapper? Yeah. A lot of people a lot of people get their kids wound up to say, hey, you might make it to the NBA. They want, because they want them to, take them out the ghetto. And you know what? I had a cousin, and her daughter was really talented and could sing really well. And I remember her mom saying, yeah, she's going to take us out the hood. She's going to get us out the hood. And she was a singer, but she was really talented. But was she a Beyonce? No, apparently not, because you ain't never heard of her. So I think it's just a fallacy, that a hope and a dream. That's just like buying a lottery ticket. Buying a lottery ticket, is just like the probability of you winning is like 0 to none. Getting to the draft, NBA draft, NFL draft, NHL draft, 0 to none. NBL draft, 0 to none, because those leagues are so small. You could count how many people that's all are on those leagues, and you got all these kids that's trying to make it. Is it say don't participate in sports? No, I think every kid should participate in organized sports. But that's because it teaches them something else. So yeah, why would you learn how to read? Because reading math. And I think if you want to get a value added degree, major in STEM, you know, major in STEM. We got a guy that's being smart on my Twitch timeline. He said this is boring and I'm talking to nobody. Well, bye. You don't have to be here. Okay, so it says, what if you are only half ADOS? Oh, that's a good question, Tracy, because they were saying that you got to be a certain percentage. And one of the videos I watched, they said you got to be a certain percentage. So I'm thinking more than 35%. And so how would they address how the welfare system helped destabilize families? I'm assuming that since the welfare system destabilized, it's going to be a monetary thing. But like it's destabilizing family, monetary can't fix that. Monetary can't fix destabilize. That's going to be generational thing that you'll have to fix within your culture. The government can't fix their destabilization. You have to want in your mind saying, hey, we had this baby together. We're going to work it out. We're going to come together as a family. We're going to come together as a community and we're going to work it out. The government can't fix that. That's my personal opinion. Y'all might think something different. Put it in the chat. But the government can't fix them destabilizing unless they incentivize, hey, instead of like, say, for instance, you are low income family and you decided to get married or whatever, and you still low income, you know how they knock you out of getting any benefits. Maybe they could make it more beneficial or incentivize people staying together. Maybe that could be one of the things. So, but we don't know. But like I said, the government can't fix it. We gotta want to fix that ourselves, you know. And I think that's going to be a couple of generations down the line before that's fixed, you know. I wanted to show you guys this. Let me see if I got it on my bookmark. This is another one. Now, these people are, I don't know if they're a couple or two professors. I'm not for sure. But one guy is from Duke. He's a professor from Duke. Let me see if I can share you. And well, you know what? I'll share you this first before I share you this. This is Dr. Rashid Ritchie, and he was quite perturbed with Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil kind of carried the same sentiments I carried, but I think he didn't explain it well enough.
Says it would be an absolute disaster if you gave Black people money for reparations. Here it is.
The first condition is that reparations should be paid to Black Americans whose ancestors were enslaved in the United States. And this would require an expenditure of $14 trillion, which would be distributed evenly across the 40 million Black American descendants of U.S. slavery. That would be approximately $350,000 per person.
If you take $350,000 or $840,000 and you write a check to any group of people, Black, white, poor, homeless, whatever, you give any group of people that much money and say, there you go, best of luck, and you come back in 6 months, they're going to be broke. So whatever reparations are done, that would be an absolute disaster, as opposed to guidance and help in creating generational wealth as opposed to income.
Right.
That would be an absolute disaster.
We found Sprizzy through a Google search, pretty much. I was looking for a way to market our YouTube videos in a...
Don't you dare allow this con artist to persuade you away from the real conversation. He is a con artist, in my humble opinion. Let me tell you why I think Phil cons people. He masquerades as if he is some kind of redeemer by exploiting the problems of everyday human beings and typically not providing the holistic support required to create a generational remedy for the dysfunction. Now, Dr. Field decided to opine on reparations. He's factually incorrect on a few things. Number one, Doc, you owe your entire damn career to a black woman named Oprah. You need to be careful here. Facilitating the conversation is one thing. Trying to take it over is something else. Professor Doherty had some good points, and he was making a calculation based on the question given directly to him. Not the only way, possibly, to do reparations, but I'm going to break down how actually America is for reparations. Dr. Field likely is for those reparations as well. Here it is. So Dr. Field has some folks on social media dragging him to hell after he said providing cash reparations for slavery will be an absolute disaster. During an episode of his talk show on April 18th, the talk show host made the statement after the economist from Duke University, Professor William A. Doherty Jr., who said 14 trillion should be distributed evenly to the 40 million black descendants of slavery in America. That comes out to $350,000 per person, holistically inadequate. The payments would be an attempt to help eliminate the wealth disparity between black and white Americans, which he said is about 840,000. The professor co-authored the book From Here to Equality, Reparations for Black Americans in the 21st Century. Let me say this about the concept of reparations, because some people get it confused.
And let me just interject. They're saying the disparity, the difference between 840,000, I'm assuming white Americans, their wealth versus Black Americans, Black American wealth, the average. And I don't think it's 840. I thought the average white American is wealth is 176,000 versus the average Black American is $5,000. That's baffling within itself, but I think the numbers are wrong. And then another thing, we're saying 40 million Black people are in America. Let me do the math right quick, but we're saying 40 million Black Americans are in America that are descendants of slaves. I don't know where he got that number from. I'm not a professor, but yeah, about 40 million Black Americans, but they're all are not descendants of slaves. And what if you have generational? That's another thing we have to question. Okay, my mom is still living. I don't know about my dad. I think he passed away. But what about the people that are still living in your family, your lineage? Everybody get 350? Have I experienced the same atrocities than my parents and my grandparents have? I don't think so. So would I have been further along if they haven't experienced these atrocities? Maybe so. I'm not for sure. So and those are the questions. I mean, he just threw another $14 trillion. We can't handle $3 trillion in debt, let alone $14 trillion in debt. So to me, it's just really outlandish, to say the least.
Use with a handout. You see, reparations means repair. That's what it means. Typically in the context of governmental repair. And in order for you to get to that repair, you must acknowledge that something has been broken. Once you acknowledge something has been broken, you then seek to find what or who broke it, because they are responsible to fix it. Well, in this case, we're talking about the United States government. The government broke it. So when there's an argument about, well, this is about white people paying for black people. Hell no. I pay taxes. That means that my tax dollars will go to the same reparations that we're trying to correct. Everybody pays taxes in America, all right, virtually. So you go to this argument of, well, they're not ready for the money. That's basically what Dr. Field is saying. Now, he tried to straighten it up afterwards by saying, oh, hey, I'm talking about any group of people. No, you weren't. That the whole damn show, sir, is about reparations to black folk, not just reparations to black people.
And he said if you give any group of people that type of money, they probably squander it. That's basically what I got out of it. He didn't just try to clean it up. That's what he said. He said it. I think if you give anybody that kind of money, they're probably wasted, especially if they don't know how to deal with it. I don't know why Dr. Rashid has a problem with that. I think he's so a person that tries to put black against white so much. I think I really don't think he likes white people at all. I really don't think that. I think he just don't like white people. Even though he will have like white commentators on his show. Another thing I don't like, what he does all the time is he says that he doesn't like people talking about black issues, but you're going to the white man. If you're saying the white man has this systematic hold on everything, well, you have to go to him to get his permission to see if you can get reparations. That's the white man. So he's not allowed to talk about reparations. And I'm not saying Dr. Phil is the man. I'm just saying, like, he's always saying white people can't talk about certain things, and which I agree. White people can't talk about certain things, but like this type of stuff, no, I don't think that, it's like a privileged thing. I think anybody should be able to talk about it if it has something to do with them. That's my own personal opinion. Put it in the chat if you agree.
Was your show. So let's go down the list here. All right. There is a substantial history of the United States government providing financial assets to white citizens when it did not provide similar assets to black citizens, said the professor. The U.S. government gave 1.5 million white families in the United States 160-acre land grants in the Western Territories under the Homestead Act of 1860. These folks did not know how to even farm. That was a transfer that has resulted in a situation in which 45 million living white Americans are continuing to benefit from those same land patents. It takes Dr. King's speech breaking this down to give you a full appreciation for how it created immediate, instant generational wealth for white families only in the United States of America. And then they gave them money, training. There's more. By 1992, I want to remind you of this. By 1992, the U.S. government eventually dispersed more than 1.6 billion. That's equivalent to 3.67 billion in 2021 in reparations to 82,219 Japanese Americans who have been illegally incarcerated during that saga. Once again, wholly inappropriate as far as the number is concerned, completely undervalued here for what carnage they created. But it is a reparations package that the government passed They did not wax poetic about, will the Japanese be able to spend this money the right way before we give it to them? No, that was not the conversation before. There's more. After World War II, Congress created the Indian Claims Commission to pay compensation to any federally recognized tribe for land that had been seized by the United States. Once again, wholly inappropriate for what they did, but still a form of reparations. Government repair through the payment of dividends or even other benefits. Not enough? Well, slave owners received reparations as well. On April 16, 1862, President Abraham Lincoln signed a bill emancipating enslaved people in Washington, the end of a long struggle. But to ease the slave owners' pain, the District of Columbia Emancipation Act also paid those loyal to the Union up to $300 for every enslaved person freed. That's right, slave owners got reparations. Enslaved African Americans got nothing for their generations of stolen bodies, snatched children, and expropriated labor other than their mere release from legal bondage. There you have it. So next time Dr. Field would like to provide his conclusive way of not giving Black people what they already earned, I want you to keep something in mind, Doc. You know how many families get generational wealth transferred to them and they may not be ready for it? Will there be some level of mismanagement? Of course. Of course. But that's not the prerequisite. It is already their money. Deal with it. All right. Ravonna, thoughts here?
Yeah. So, I mean, he did have a point there. All the other, and it's way more than that. I got a list of the different ethnicities or nationalities that receive reparations from the U.S. government. And of course, Africans or Black Americans have never received reparations. But like I said, is reparations going to solve our problem? Now, all these other cultures or ethnicities or nationalities, I don't know what you want to call them, they didn't have a culture problem. Japanese, they tend to stick within their culture. They do stuff with each other. Indians, you can't even go on an Indian reservation without you being Indian. They don't like other people. They stick within their culture. They help each other. Black people are the only ones. We're the only ones that don't look out for each other. To a certain extent, you do have some Black people looking out, but for the most part, I mean, I could tell you some mean stories that I've encountered with Black women, and we call each other, "Hey sister," "Hey sis." So, and it's like I've never felt a certain type of way other than with a black woman, even a black man. But I receive more hate and more like I don't like you type of attitude from Black women than any other race. So when we talk about reparations, like I said, I think reparations, I mean, okay, we could give reparations if that's going to be the thing, but we still have a culture problem to fix. And for us to spend a lot of time talking about this, to me, it's a waste of time. It's a truly waste of time and resources. And we could spend a whole bunch of other time on other stuff. I want to play Tom Sowell on slavery and reparations. Let me share this with you guys.
Slavery has been a universal institution for thousands of years, as far back as you can trace human history. And what we're looking at is if slavery is something that happened to one race of people in one country, when in fact the spread of it was around the world. In 1776, which is when Adam Smith published The Wealth of Nations, as well as when the United States got started, he said that Western Europe is the only place in the world where there is no slavery. And even the Western Europeans had vast numbers of slaves in the Western Hemisphere, yes, but not in Western Europe itself. And so if you're going to have reparations for slavery, it's going to be the greatest transfer of wealth back and forth, and between and cross hauling, as they say in the railroads, because the number of whites, for example, who were enslaved in North Africa by the Barbary pirates exceeded the number of Africans enslaved in the United States and in the American colonies before that, put together. But nobody is going to North Africa to ask for reparations because nobody is going to be fool enough to give it to them. Here we have intellectuals who can imagine a different history from the rest of the world, even though it's so similar to the rest of the world.
Only reason why I wanted to play that is because, you know, if you really think about it, slavery is a part of a world culture. And we're talking about this reparations and for this really unjust thing that happened to Black Americans. But we don't talk about the start of it, you know, like how did we actually get over here? And it was basically, you know, other tribes selling the weaker tribe to, or they capture the tribe to put them on the ships. So it's like, who are you really blaming right now? Yeah, it's the United States government. We did build this country. But, you know, the people over there in Africa, they had the main hand or dealing with the whole transatlantic slave trade. It wasn't just them. It wasn't just the United States government. So it's kind of weird for people to just, oh, you owe me reparations, you owe me reparations, and just to blame one person like this is such an atrocity. But and it is an atrocity, but it happened throughout the world. It's not like we were the only ones. And like Dr. Thomas Sowell said, he mentioned that it was a whole bunch of white people enslaved in North America. But no, they're not asking for reparations. You know, it's kind of like what are we asking? And then once you get it, or it's not good enough what they're offering you. And when I say it's not good enough, we got this guy over here. Let me show it to you. He said, I think it was 5 million they was asking. He said that wasn't good enough. They wanted more. Let's see if I can find it. And to me, it's like, Okay, you want more money. This guy right here.
If you're shopping for your first rental property, then you definitely need our free rental analysis calculator.
California's Reparations Task Force has approved a plan to make cash payments to certain black residents and issue a formal state apology for slavery. And California taxpayers are set to inherit a massive bill. I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. Slavery, California, I know what you're thinking. We'll get to it. Under the proposal, eligible black residents would receive compensation of up to $1.2 million. In total, that could cost an estimated $800 billion. That's more than 2.5 times the state's annual budget. Some activists don't even think that's enough.
We must repair this damage. We must repair it. Reparations are not only morally justifiable, but they have the potential to address long-standing racial disparities and inequality.
You say nothing about slavery, nothing.
Zero.
So the equivocal number from the 1860s for 40 acres today is $200 million for each and every African American.
Phil.
Slavery was abolished in California in 1850. I don't know. I think based on the sound bites you just heard, that doesn't matter to the folks who were talking at that event. William Longinus was covering this story for us earlier today. He told me a couple of things I wasn't aware of. This task force was created after the death of George Floyd. So it's been going on for a while right now. It comprised of one Japanese American. Remember World War II, Japanese Americans, the internment camps during the Second World War, and everyone else was black on this board. And you don't need to be a descendant of a slave, and you don't need to show harm. But I don't know. I don't know where this goes. I don't know where you get the money. I don't know what Hispanics say in California. But the rubber's going to meet the road when it comes for the state to go ahead and say, all right, guys, time to pony up money.
The reparations that man at that city council meeting was talking about, and reparations, I think, as most people understand it, somebody in your family had to be a slave.
As I recall, when the original proposal was put out there, you have to prove that you lived in California prior to 1939, I think. Let me check that. But it's not just California. This is spreading to other cities. And your hometown of Kansas City is talking about an idea, too. Right. You know, the city council granted a board to look into this as well. I think you're going to see this more and more frequently.
Other diverse lanes, minorities will get involved, like the one Japanese participant and the one in California?
I don't know.
Are they open to do that?
I think California, anything's possible. But again, when it comes, whether it's 1.2 million, which was,
or 200 million,
or 200 million, or even $100,000,
right?
Who pays and when?
Talk to me about the legality of this.
Right, and I just want to make sure that viewers understand, so that's left unresolved yet. So under the plan that this group has put forth over the last 2 years, this board was created by Governor Gavin Newsom. So it's unclear, unresolved, exactly who of the 2.5 million African Americans living in California would be eligible. Some argue, including at that meeting, that you would have to be a direct descendant from slaves. Others argue that simply those Californians affected by decades of racist policies should qualify, yes.
How do you prove that?
Exact dollar amounts would be left to lawmakers to decide after the commission makes its final report to the state legislature. That's at the end of June. But economists working with this, as we saw, we know the total cost could exceed $800 billion, which, just a reminder and for perspective, is 2.5 times California's annual budget. So it raises more questions than it answers, frankly. Number one being the eligibility and the determination of such Harris, and also who and how this would be paid for, because the answer is...
So how do we prove that people have been wrong by decades of policies if you're like, as that gentleman said, in the hole for 200 million is what he thinks that...
That's what I was getting at. How do you prove? Okay, in their thing is saying like, policing, harsh policing. But if I never been arrested, how do you prove I was? So I don't get that part of the money. Oh, you never been arrested, so you never got that part of the money. I I'm kind of confused, and it's like this guy wants $200 million. He wants $200 million. This guy wants $200 million a person.
Each person of color is. I shouldn't say people of color, particularly blacks.
Yeah, I don't know how you prove that. And I also don't know how you pay for it. To Emily's point, there was no cost estimate in this. It's given to the legislature on July 1st. They will decide what to do with it. Governor Newsom's been pretty silent on this. He could take executive action to override the legislature if they don't adopt it. A lot remains to be seen.
He needs those votes, though, if he's going to run for president.
I would just quickly say that there's a $22 billion deficit in California, and that was underestimated by Newsom by $7 billion. So they're already running a deficit. So how do you pay for it? He's the worst.
Wow. Okay, I was going to ask you about DNA, but as Bill and Emily have pointed out, apparently you don't have to be the descendant of a slave. So wouldn't that mean that everybody can get this money?
Well, even if you did have to be, DNA would be very difficult at this point, seeing as there wasn't very good records back then. But, you know, the paternalism of white liberalism is astounding here. And all you really have to do is look at the policies. So look at what happened under President Trump. You had President Trump's First Step Act, where he released thousands of nonviolent black men from prisons. Under President Trump, you had the historic lows unemployment for black Americans. Now, President Biden's policies, unfortunately, the soft on crime, you've had larger crime waves in specifically Democratic areas with black victims. And you also are favoring illegal immigration, which are taking away from resources from poor black communities. So, you know, they can talk the talk, but truly when it comes down to it, the Democratic policies are hurting black Americans, and these reparations are really just a means for optics, and they're not actually doing anything to help black Americans.
Wow. What you said is still ringing around in my head, Bill, and that is the fact that, no, don't have to be a descendant of a slave. I mean, I think everybody will come out into the street saying, where's mine?
Yeah, I think under this setup they have that a different state agency will then determine lineage and genealogy.
Wow.
So how that works, I do not know.
Dr. Sapphire just told us that it's not going to be easy. Okay, let's move on.
It's not going to happen. They like I said, when I read that article, they were saying, oh, we're going to leave it up to you to determine our lineage. How are they going to do that? Especially if they have crappy records. If you were a slave, they were just numbering people. You were a property. So how would they determine that based off the census? And, you know, you could go off the census of, you know, when they actually were naming you. And then a lot of times you were your owner, you had your owner's last name. Some of these people are not the same, you know, I don't know. To me, it doesn't make any sense. This next video is Governor Newsom. He's declining to say if he support reparations. Okay, let's see. Let's go back to some of your chats. Let me move this thing out the way. I am not combative. Recently found your channel, loved and subbed. Thank you. Thank you, CJ. Blackfoot man, Trump, Trump, Trump. Okay. Trump all the way. Okay, I hear you. Robert Jordan, are they paying federal, state, and local taxes on this money? Yeah, that's another thing I wanted to add. Who are they paying? Is it tax? Like California? California gonna be like, yeah, here's your $1 million. Now you owe us 500,000 of it because California got a 50% tax. The open border hurts our economy enough. Where's the money going to come from? Exactly. They're already. I'm so bad with names. The young lady, the last lady that was speaking, she was saying the policies that the Democrats have in place now actually hurt Black Americans, even with the open border policy. That money, the monies that they're bringing over to say it's humanitarian, and you bringing people over from God knows where. That's the money that could be spent in your Black community. I believe, like Lori Lightfoot said, it costs $1.8 million to house undocumented or illegal immigrants. They call them migrants now. Migrants, $1.8 million a month to operate the centers that they have now. That's not including the people that's coming over here. And they said they need about $41 million for the next 6 months. And they running short. So where's that money coming from? That's the money you could be putting back into the community. And you see a lot of people in not California, but Chicago, they pissed off. They're pissed off about that. Alistair, I'm British and I want my tea tax from my tea destroyed in tea in Boston. I want that destroyed in tea in Boston. Yeah. That's hilarious. Newsom is such a con. He is. Alistair, you're a great woman. Thank you, Alistair. So this is Gavin Newsom. And they're giving him crap because he's afraid. He's afraid to support Gavin Newsom. He's like, yeah, I just wanted to waste your time. I'm not really for reparations. He's not really for reparations. He just wanted to waste people time and say, oh yeah, he's for the people. And he's not. He's not for the people.
New this morning, Governor Newsom appears to not be on board with the idea of paying money to address California's history with slavery.
Well, yesterday he told CNN reporters that a legacy like this is about more than cash. On Saturday, the state's Reparations Task Force approved a long list of proposals that would compensate and apologize to Black Californians for generations of discriminatory policies. It's up to lawmakers to determine what to do with those recommendations. Now, if it's approved, it could cost the state billions of dollars.
Hello, I'm Mark Brown. Get more great ABC7 content by clicking the subscribe button for our YouTube channel and download the ABC
I thought it was going to actually have him talking. That was a waste. Maybe that was the wrong clip. Let me try to find it. No, that's not him. Yeah. Anyway, Gavin Newsom ain't on board. And then you got all these other people talking about they want their reparations and they think it's going to be $200 million. To me, it's just ridiculous. You're not going to get you're not going to get support if it's going to cost all that money. And I truly believe that if you want reparations, we need to fix a culture problem. Cash is not going to fix Black America's problem. It's really not. It might help do some things if they start building like invest in some small businesses, some black-owned businesses, maybe build a grocery store that's black-owned. Black-owned banks. We do have black-owned banks, but they're not everywhere. I'm not for sure but we need to invest in our education, something like that. And then we need to get these kids. These kids are bad. They running amok. They're scaring adults. So we want to fix reparations. We need to fix that first. Like I said, reparations is not going to solve that. We need to solve our culture problem. This last video I want to show you guys. And this is another lady talking about reparations. Is this what oh yeah, this is it. Let me see if I can find it. Okay.
Governor Gavin Newsom is now responding to recent recommendations by California's Reparations Task Force. The task force recently submitted recommendations to lawmakers suggesting up to $1.2 million in damages be paid to black residents. State lawmakers and the governor will have the final say on how much is spent and where the money would come from. In a statement, the governor did give an indication if he'd give back direct payments, saying dealing with that legacy is about much more than cash payments. Much of the recommendations put forward by the task force are critical action items we've already been hard at work addressing. Went on to say he looks forward to working with the legislature to adopt an inclusive and equitable future.
This is the nonsense I was talking about.
At a public meeting of the Reparations Commission, people spoke out, sometimes passionately.
Our ancestors helped build this country.
African Americans, black people, whatever you want to label us this time, we're on an island of destitute, despair, amongst the sea of abundance.
True liberation starts with money.
The AB 3121 task force meeting is now called to order.
The task force was set up by the state legislature in 2020 to develop proposals for compensating California residents who are descendants of enslaved people.
This task force is designed to examine the harms associated with the enslavement of black people, African Americans in this country, as well as the legacy of the harms of enslavement.
What do we want? Reparations! Advocates say reparations would not only be for slavery, but the century and a half of racism that followed.
And we think about over time, whether you want to start with the Jim Crow laws, whether we want to think about moving forward with the redlining with real estate, the horrors of discrimination, segregation, all of those things followed slavery and have continued, I think, to plague us through today.
Economists consulted by the panel estimate that the cost of compensating California's black residents could top $800 billion. That's 2.5 times the state's budget for this year. The task force chair says reparations may not be limited to money.
The recommendations for reparations must include compensation, restitution, which accounts for stolen land or stolen wealth, stolen opportunities, rehabilitation, free education, free health care is examples. I'm not saying those are going to be the final recommendations.
Cash reparations are not unprecedented. The federal government has paid some Native American tribes compensation for land improperly seized from them, and in 1988 paid $1.2 billion to Japanese Americans interned during the Second World War.
The task force would like to hear from everyone.
The task force must complete its report by July 1st. The commission's ultimate recommendations will be purely advisory. The state's legislature and governor will ultimately decide what, if any, reparations are given, a process that is sure to prompt more debate about history, equity, and cost.
Yeah, you know, like I said, reparations is, if we actually say, oh, we're gonna do the reparations thing, or if the government says it, they're gonna have to do a lineage, because they're not gonna give just money to anybody. Oh, you're black, so we're gonna give you reparations. No, they're not gonna do that. Then they're gonna tax you. You're gonna be able to have to show your, or prove your lineage, and then they're gonna tax you on those dollars. So why are we even wasting all this time with reparations? But then actually, I wanted to point out another thing. You know, with the whole Black Lives Matter movement, this movement, every time they rear its ugly head, or, you know, they say or claim some type of injustice, they start some type of riot. And their riots, they're people that's over, like their leaders, they would say, oh yeah, burn these buildings down, pillage these stores, because this is our form of reparation. So they should also propose that anybody that's been caught in rioting, if they actually approve, okay, you don't get reparations, because you already got your reparations, because you burnt down this store, you robbed these stores. Like that one lady that was in Target. You guys remember that one lady in Target? I don't know if you guys ever seen that. She went into Target asking, saying she filled her cart up with $1,000 worth of stuff. $1,000 worth of stuff. And then she told the lady, oh, I don't get any money. This is a form of reparations. I don't have any money. Let me play this for you. But this is from the guy. I don't know if you guys remember. This happened a few weeks ago. This guy, she was following him. I guess he was the supervisor, and he punched her in the face. But this is how it came about.
I was like, man, like, I need you to back up or leave. Like, well, we can't do that for you. So she started.
Corner, they can choose. No, they can choose to do the right thing, or they can choose to lash out.
Okay, you were in the wrong here, just so we're
I
clear.
held them.
She says the whole altercation was her way to take a stand.
This is my Rosa Parks moment, dude. Don't play with me.
The incident happened on October 22nd of last year at a Target in Blue Ash, Ohio. Security video shows 37-year-old Karen Ivory checking out at the register. When the bill surpasses $1,000, Ivory says she won't have enough.
This is her order.
Okay.
When she got to 1,000, she said, I'm not going to have enough money to pay for this. I need to talk to the manager. She happened to be walking by.
Body camera video captures Target manager Ashley Meyer describing to police what happened.
So I came around and I was like, hey, what can I do for you?
Okay.
Usually it's like the price is wrong or whatever. She starts going on this spiel about like about how like I've had a privileged life and she's been disadvantaged, and then said that she was asking Target to make reparations for her.
Can you imagine this lady right here, this white lady, get a customer and says, you had a privileged life. And you look at her like, bitch, I'm working at Target. Privilege? What are you talking about privilege? I work at Target. I make minimum wage for, well, Target, they probably making $16 an hour. If she's the manager, she probably making 18. Like, come on. I ain't privileged. So, and you ask the Target for reparations. Target's not the federal government, ma'am.
And I said, that's not something we can do tonight. If you need a donation, like you can call tomorrow. I can put you in touch with the HR person, but like that isn't something I can do for you like right now tonight.
Okay.
And then she was like, you need to put me in touch with someone tonight. And I was like, I can't. There isn't.
Okay.
Like
strange.
Yeah. And then she got really close to me. So I put my hands up and backed up, and she like followed me. She was like like breathing into my eyeballs.
Was she screaming at you or?
Yeah. So she got really close to me. I put my hands up. I touched her shoulders because she was like coming into my space.
Okay.
And then she like, because I touched her, she like went after that and just started screaming really loudly and like backed me up against the soda machine.
Okay.
And then that's when like our security person, she called our security person.
Security video shows the incident unfold as Ivory approaches the manager.
Look at her. Look at this lady. She all up in her face.
And gets in her face. After that, a loss prevention manager approaches.
So what happened?
Talking about reparations.
Okay, being secure at 2046. Okay. Came up, I tried to verbally de-escalate. She told me that she wanted to wreck it out, and I told her we couldn't do that.
Okay.
And then she said, excuse me, and I was like, man, like, I need you to back up or leave, like, well, we can't do that for you. So she started charging at me. I came all the way back into my office, into an enclosed space, and I hit her in the face.
Surveillance video shows Ivory run after the manager and into his office. When she approaches, he punches her in the face. While the security video does not have audio, the manager later described the incident to police on body camera video.
So I tried to literally close her out, but at that point she was like pretty much running, so she barreled her way in and then kept coming into my office.
Okay. Yes, and you just hit her and that's it?
Hit her like right in the face, like right in the jaw.
After the manager punches Ivory in the face, security video shows him calling 911.
What did your notes say? The lady came in and punched her man, or her manager punched her?
Yeah, some sort of shenanigans. Didn't say anything about a manager. Said somebody came into an office,
I thought it
started
was
assaulting him.
Assumed it was a manager.
Allegedly, this chick's impaired.
When officers arrive, body camera footage captures Ivory arguing with the manager as officers work to get her information.
I tried to close you out of my office and you just kept on pushing your way in.
That's right.
No, sir. I didn't push my way in.
Yes,
I
you
came.
did.
No, I came around the corner quickly.
Hey, would you
I did not
both
push
quit
you
talking?
on.
Hey, no.
Excuse you?
Stop talking. When I'm telling you, you stop talking, okay?
Do you know who I am?
We'll figure that out when I get your ID.
Ivory later tells police officers the incident stemmed from her request for reparations on her purchase.
So what caused the issue out here today?
Because
Check
I
lane
came
10.
in.
Actually,
Target is somewhat of a home for me. And we were gonna have a big discussion here, and I asked them to do it nicely.
Who are you going to have this big discussion with?
Target, whoever in Target I needed to speak with.
Okay.
A business account could help boost your TikTok.
You could tell this lady, she's not all there. She's not all there. And that I feel sorry for her because that guy punched her, because normally you wouldn't punch a woman. He was like, I don't know you, so he punched her in the face. And it's not funny, but it's kind of funny because I guess she thought she wouldn't have got punched. But you can't just be rolling up on people and think they're not going to react.
The young lady.
Hi, George, 31 squads responding, 2432 on the available emergency
I said, who would you
2.
call if this place was called fire? I asked her to put me in touch with the right people. Who would you call if this place was on fire? It was. She would not. I'm not going to do that. The young man came over, stood behind her. I asked him the same thing. They teamed up. We are not. Actually, no. The young lady got in my face. She pushed me too. She put her hands on me as well. I put my hands on no one. I came close to them, and they felt threatened. Now, at least hers was a pushback.
Yeah, just to separate you from her because you're in her space. Yeah.
She felt threatened. Who? Why did you feel threatened?
Depends on, I don't know what this discussion was about. What were you asking her to do?
Reach out to her manager so we can have a larger discussion about how money works and how provision works and how it's been working in our community in a very wrong way.
Can you elaborate a little bit, go into further detail?
Sure.
Ivory calls the incident her, quote, Rosa Parks moment.
Sure. I was asking with the support of my community to come behind me in a big way to have a money conversation. There have been people subjugated and blocked out of things. We have decided we were not going to have a bigger conversation. I decided to take a stand. This is my Rosa Parks moment, dude. Don't play with me.
Body camera video captures Ivory speaking with officers for more than 30 minutes, stressing the statement she was trying to make.
We're having a conversation about how to reconcile the fact that some people benefited off of a system that was rigged against other people. I asked nicely to have that conversation.
Okay, what were you asking for?
For her to connect me with who I could talk to.
What was your purpose of that further conversation? What were you going to ask that person for to do?
To break the lies around money.
What's that mean?
We all know money has not been treating everybody equally.
Okay.
Money is not the only way for things to happen.
Were you asking for them to make a donation, essentially? Or to let you have them for free?
No,
what was it?
I was coming up to the limit of where I had money. I was trying to ask if Target would comp me the rest, and we would have a conversation, a bigger conversation about why, because I know the heart of this place.
Okay.
It's the right place for me to have this conversation.
Target's a good company.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I was trying to have a hard conversation in a safe place.
Girl, you need to
So
contact
did you-
corporate office.
No. People hit me for that. I did it the right way.
And then when I
went through the right steps. They kept, the problem why money doesn't work right is because it blocks people at checkpoints. And I'm tired of people locking good people out. You don't get paid what you deserve. Nearly as much. Because choosing to do the right thing in this world costs us monetarily. That's not fair. The system is rigged against people doing the right thing.
When Ivory is told she's now trespassing in Target, she becomes visibly upset.
As of today, you're trespassed from Target.
I'm sorry?
As of today, you're trespassed from Target.
On the basis of you hitting me?
Ma'am, let's go. Outside.
No, that is not going to
Either
happen.
you walk out on your own or in handcuffs.
Oh, I will be arrested for this cause.
Okay, come on. Come on.
No, I'm
Come
not
on,
gonna move.
don't make this
Nope.
more difficult than it has to be.
It's gonna be on camera. Where are you holding your lines at?
Come on.
Ivory then pushes back, arguing she should not be removed from the store.
Does he have to?
That's all this is.
So
He
he gets the right to kick me out after he hits me. He didn't bubble
So-
that. He can't bubble that up in management.
He is
I
speaking on
asked-
behalf of the company at this point.
Really?
That's
Exactly.
what he's doing.
So he can speak on behalf of the company at that level, but he couldn't do it there.
I wasn't out there. I'm sure tensions were a little different than they are at this moment in time. So,
No, you're gonna reconcile that. You're not gonna give me any more lies. You will tell the truth about the situation. No. You are trying to arrest me for him hitting me.
Correct. You are under arrest.
You said correct.
You're under arrest for menacing and disorderly conduct. Okay? Now, here's what we would like to do. We would
Let's
rather
go
you
make
walk
this
outside and not make a big deal. If you're gonna make a big deal, we're gonna have to handcuff you and do all that other stuff.
Yes, you will.
Let's go.
Go ahead, stand up then.
I'm not gonna
Don't
move.
get resisting too. Okay?
Let's do it.
Let's not.
If we're gonna go into it, let's do it. If you're gonna hold every line, you know what happened here.
With that, officers tell Ivory the video evidence is against her.
I know, I just watched the video.
I asked to open a conversation, and he's still blocking me out, and you guys are protecting it.
Ma'am, you chased the one employee all the way to the front, okay? You made contact with her body by pushing your body into hers. I just watched it clear as day on the video.
Okay?
He then came out and you followed him all the way back here,
Okay?
making him fear for his safety. You backed him into an office and you got hit in the face, unfortunately.
When people are backed into a corner, they can choose, they can choose to do the right thing, or they can choose to lash out.
Okay, you were in the wrong here, just so we're
I
clear.
held the line.
You didn't hold
And
the line.
I moved my line continuously. I asked, and when they did not respect, they were gatekeeping me. Like the whole world has kept people.
Man, you were free to leave at any time.
Absolutely.
But you didn't.
Absolutely.
So
because it
you
wasn't right.
amplified the situation. No, you wanted something
when the
for
laws
free.
are not right,
You wanted something
you
for
make a
free.
stand so they can change.
Are you ready to go outside?
If the laws are meant to hold people down, you will fight for me, my community.
Okay. Let's go outside.
Responding officers
And we didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us.
explained the Target manager was not in the wrong and will not be charged.
That doesn't, just because your intentions were good, does not make this any less illegal, unfortunately.
Right.
So we
But
have.
what happens when the
so give me 2
laws
seconds.
are not okay for people? We
I
need to talk
have
about
to
it.
enforce the laws that are in place. Okay, that is our job. That is our goal.
But he's not getting arrested for assault?
It's not assault.
He's defending himself.
Ivory maintains she did not get physical with any Target employees.
No, there was not at any times that my hands came up to do anything to anybody.
You're not being
What I
charged
did,
with assault.
I stood my ground.
Okay, and you
And
were
when
wrong.
people, no, I wasn't. Standing your ground is not wrong if you're standing it in the truth.
Finally, Ivory allows officers to handcuff her.
I need you to turn around, put your hands behind your back. You're under arrest. Thank you.
Violate my rights as a human being.
She's then escorted to a squad car outside the store. She continues to speak with officers, saying she was forcing an important conversation.
When it gets to a point where a young man reached out and hit an older black woman,
Regardless of age, race, anything.
you don't hit somebody.
You don't hit people, but I can also understand why
You hear what the officer says, regardless of age or race. He had to know that regardless of your age and race, you cannot advance on people. You are intruding on their personal space. You can't do that.
he did. He was defending himself. You
How?
chased him into a closed office where he had no point of exit.
Right, that was the point. I was forcing him to have a conversation.
You're forcing him
No,
to
you
become
can't force
scared
nobody
and
to
interfere.
have that.
When asked if she could have handled the situation in a different way, Ivory repeats her same stance.
We haven't been able to see and communicate with each other, and that's what I was trying to do.
Okay.
And I asked nicely, and I got refused, and I stood a line that scared them, and they lashed out.
So, do you think you could have approached it in a different manner than how we approached it today, and probably got the same goal, the same end?
How do you expect I'm asking for something at the register to be done.
Mm-hmm.
The cashier couldn't do it for me. I asked her to bubble it up to a manager. That's what you do. You take it up the chain of command.
Absolutely you do. Yeah.
But this is the problem. My people have been trying to take it up the chain of command, and they're getting smacked back down. Because the law.
Look, I'm not gonna listen to this. Well, we almost at the end of the video anyway. But look, I've actually filled out forms for 501c3. I'm a part of Kiwanis Club, and when you want donation, you just ask this manager, "Hey, do you guys donate to your regular 501c3 or community 501c3? You got to be an organization for them to donate to you." And then they'll be like, "Yes, you need to fill out this form, blah, blah, blah. Put the dates, what you need, and whatever, and you submit it. Then Target corporate office would return it back to you. Usually it takes a few months to get a response, and usually they do donate, but you just can't come in Target and say, "I want my reparations," and you think you're gonna get some free shit. I mean, I think something wrong with this lady. Something really wrong with her. She's on a different planet. To me, that story was hilarious. But anyway, when we talk about reparations, that was something to laugh about. But on a more serious note, I think when we talk about reparations with the Black community, I think we need to fix our cultural problem, and we're always looking to the government to give us something. I don't think the government could solve our problems. I think we have to solve our problems within. So that was it for our business talk. I don't know if you even would call it business talk, but thank you guys for tuning in. Let me show you something before I let you go. I know this is the last time I said, let me show you something, but I want to share this with you. Screen YouTube. This is my YouTube. And we're creeping along. We're at 26,439 subscribers. I want to get up to 30,000 by the end of the month, you guys. So please like, share, comment on this video. It helps me with my algorithm. And share this channel with your friends. And let's get to our goals. So I really appreciate you guys. Thank you for tuning in. And I am sending all my good to you. I will talk to you soon.